Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I specifically want to talk about world stranding and world bridging, and how Dungeons & Dragons, at this point, very much needs its own Daniel Witwicky. Alright, so let me define my terms. So let's talk about Daniel Witwicky for a minute. So who is Daniel Witwicky? Daniel Witwicky is, in my opinion, a really pivotal character in American fiction. Okay? So he is the human youth that specifically, that served as a bridge between the Transformers from Cybertron and the Transformers as they existed and lived on Earth. Excuse me. All right, so he is, and it's really interesting because, you know, what's the history here, right? Well, this goes all the way back to the Saturday morning cartoon, which is no small thing. American Saturday morning cartoons are a major icon, and a lot of the and I think one of the things we're seeing right now, I recently just watched that 90s show, which I really enjoyed. I actually didn't enjoy the 70s show. I watched a few episodes because, you know, it's like, oh, okay, this is a show. But I was very interested in the 90s show because it's something that's saying, hey, if something is an American icon and it was an American winner, you can continue to launch additional entertainment as a platform off of that sound base, right? And so I really enjoyed that 90s show. So the fact that Transformers was a Saturday morning American cartoon is a really big deal. Saturday morning cartoons are a big thing. We don't have them anymore. Like, they're meaningless now because we have entire channels where you just turn on the channel and you can get whatever, like, kind of whatever type of cartoon you want, right? Like, you can do Hanna-Barbera, an entire channel that does nothing but that. There's an entire channel that plays G.I. Joe from the 1980s 24/7, right? It's incredible, right? So, but Saturday morning cartoons are this really important point in American history. And so Transformers came in, and it became a powerful, powerful American narrative, right? And the Transformers were these very likable robots that are fighting for good. That's the Autobots. And then they had very clear villains, enemies, the Decepticons, who were really quite evil and dedicated to evil, right? And Daniel Witwicky meets the Transformers in the Saturday morning cartoon, befriends them, and says, hey, I know you're from Cybertron, this is Earth. And guess what? On Earth, people aren't going to understand a 20-foot talking robot, right, who transforms into a car. So I'm going to need to protect you. And Daniel Witwicky, just a young boy, right, becomes a protector for these Autobots who literally have, like, cannons strapped to their arms. But they need this protector, someone who understands the land, right? Understands Earth, right? And Daniel Witwicky has now, I think, you know, probably where Daniel Witwicky is most famous is for the Transformers films, the Michael Bay films, right? And Shia LaBeouf, played Daniel Witwicky, and he really made Daniel Witwicky world famous. I think Daniel Witwicky is a lot more famous because of Shia LaBeouf's work than anything. I don't know the name of the kid who, voiced, Daniel Witwicky in the show. It's good that we have that origin, but it was definitely surpassed with Michael Bay's films, right? But there, Daniel Witwicky is a college-age student, and he is doing the same job. He's being a protector for the Autobots by explaining Earth to them, right? Well, where are we now today? Dungeons & Dragons has done a fantastic job. It has its own distinct Dungeons & Dragons setting worlds. The main three, Krynn, Dragonlance, Faerun, Forgotten Realms, and Exandria, right? Wildmount, Exandria, right? And these are really critical, important D&D canon worlds, right? In addition, and so they're there, right? And Dungeons & Dragons said, oh, no, don't stop there. We're going to go way farther than that. And the really important part is where they connected Dungeons & Dragons directly by canon to multiple Magic the Gathering worlds, right? And with Plane Shift, they connected it to 6 different worlds. And then with D&D canon hardbacks, they connected it to Ravnica, Theros, and Strixhaven. And Strixhaven is by far the most important of all of those, right? So, Strixhaven is a canon world. It's Arcavios. And they very purposely said Arcavios is, we want you to bring all your player characters from every Dungeons & Dragons realm here, bring them right in, right? But then they're like, hey, don't get it twisted. This is a Dungeons & Dragons canon world. This is fully a Magic the Gathering world. And they fully statted out every aspect of Strixhaven through Magic the Gathering cards, saying Strixhaven is the permeable bridge connection between Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons. And everything from these Dungeons & Dragon worlds can flow into the Magic the Gathering world through Strixhaven, through Arcavios. And everything from that is connected to the Magic the Gathering worlds, as long as they can get to Arcavios, which is a canon Magic the Gathering world, they can get right over into any other D&D worlds, right? So it's a permeable pass, right? By narrative, logic, and lore, right? There's fiction all about this. Logically it fits, narratively it fits, and that story was written by Wizards of the Coast, in my humble opinion, right? So you have these connections, right? And here's the kicker, right? So the planar bridge, that is on multiple worlds on Magic the Gathering, right? And it's been printed in multiple sets, all which are different realms in Magic the Gathering. And then it's also printed as the cube from Fortnite. So by narrative, logic, and lore, everything in Fortnite, every single world that's ever been presented in Fortnite is connected to Magic the Gathering. And as we established, Magic the Gathering is connected to Dungeons & Dragons, right? So that means that by narrative, logic, and lore, right, you've been given an invitation, in my humble opinion, to run stories that include Star Wars, Naomi Osaka, LeBron James, Indiana Jones, and Marvel, DC. The list goes on and on and on and on, right? So unlike any other intellectual property in the world, Dungeons & Dragons and Magic the Gathering have worked harder to bridge their worlds to 1,000 other worlds by narrative, logic, and lore. My humble opinion, right? So, once you establish that, right, there's one key aspect that is needed, and that is the Daniel Witwicky, right? So basically, when characters come to and that's the last piece is how do we connect it to our world, right? By narrative, logic, and lore, right? Now, first of all, it's already started in Dungeons & Dragons, right? Barrier Peak clearly connects our IRL world with Dungeons & Dragons. In addition to that, the Dungeons & Dragons Saturday morning cartoon said the realm of Dungeons & Dragons. And what is the realm of Dungeons & Dragons? It's a permeable link from our IRL world where essentially high school students play Dungeons & Dragons and were easily able to go directly into the Dungeons & Dragons world, right? So Dungeons & Dragons has made a long tradition of saying, yes, Dungeons & Dragons worlds are completely permeable. They can be reached from any point, right? This started in 1983. James Wyatt did a huge amount of work on Plane Shift Dominaria and built, in my opinion, a permanent bridge between everything that's ever printed on a Magic card straight into Dungeons & Dragons, right? And the Secret Lair teams have done an incredible amount of work, right? Building the planar bridge directly into Fortnite through the cube, saying, here's the cube, it is the planar bridge, printing it directly on the card, right? And saying, look, take a look, it's right here, right? Planar bridge, cube, right there, right? The connection is completely logical, completely narrative, complete solid lore on both sides, right? So that is all there, okay? But I think we need, especially with everything that's happening right now, we need to button this up, right? And when Elminster starts to come over, right? When Batman comes over, right? For Fortnite, directly into Kaladesh, directly into Arcavios, directly from Arcavios to Forgotten Realms, right? Held hand by hand by hand by hand by Liliana, who is a planeswalker who walks across all of those worlds by canon, right? Like, she's literally printed as Professor Onyx on a card right there, you know, like, and Strixhaven, they're like, oh, no, Strixhaven isn't just a Magic the Gathering setting. Here it is. Here's your D&D book, right there. Strixhaven, canon on the DMD side, canon on the Magic the Gathering side, connecting all worlds, right? Pure as day, right? Like, it's just, in my humble opinion, Strixhaven is the permanent bridge, right? And that's why everybody got excited when the book dropped, right? And it's been incredibly powerful, right? All right. So you have all that, except our world, right? We're in 2023. The last time we talked about this was 1983, the realm of Dungeons & Dragons, connecting our IRL world directly to the Dungeons & Dragons worlds. So what we need now is that Daniel Witwicky. It's very important. We need that Daniel Witwicky type, now not specifically Daniel Witwicky, although, is Daniel Witwicky in Magic the Gathering? That's a very good question, because the Transformers quite literally just jumped directly into Brothers War, right? You'll pick up Brothers War, and they say, hey, and you know what Wizards of the Coast will tell you? Hey, the story is right on the cards. Read it in the cards, right? And they're like, here's Urza, here's Mishra, and here's Optimus Prime. By narrative, logic, and lore, by promotion and packaging, it's all there, right? Like, the world bridging is constant, right? And so you have that happening, but we do need, Dungeons & Dragons needs its own Daniel Witwicky. So what are the parameters of that person? I think they should be college-aged. And then at that point, it's going to be challenging, right? Because there's going to be a lot of demands for that person. Should they be male? Should they be female? What ancestry should they have? All these kind of things are up in the air. The one thing I think is important is that they're a college-age student and they have that same level of courage and intelligence that Daniel Witwicky had, right? And at that point, there are a lot of demands on that character, right? Because one, everybody's going to want representation. If you make it a white male, there's going to be questions. If you make it a white female, there's going to be questions. Should it be a person of color? It's a good question. You know what I mean? Or should that person be Asian? Right? Has there been much? We already know there has been kind of actually, Wizards of the Coast said themselves, like, put forward information themselves that they wanted to show more Asian representation within Dungeons & Dragons, right? Big question, right? I'm not going to answer that question today. Well, actually, I will. I'm mad at Panay. So my people are the mad at Panay. I'm also Basque, but I would love the person to be, I think, a college student who was of Native American descent. That would be very cool. I would really like to see that, right? So I would like to see representation. I would like to see myself in Dungeons & Dragons, although that has never. Well, I guess I have always seen myself in Dungeons & Dragons, because I have a good imagination. It's not that difficult to see myself in the worlds of Dungeons & Dragons for me, right? But I definitely think it's important that we establish a Daniel Witwicky. And then, at that point, once we've done that, we can start to bring everyone who is, we can use the work that Dungeons & Dragons has made to connect themselves to, not an exaggeration, easily 1,000 different worlds, right? Through Funko Pop, Magic the Gathering, and so there's one other very big one. Oh, and Lego, right? So we have all these world connections. Let's make sure that we can bring them to our world, right? We need that Daniel Witwicky in the middle of Dungeons & Dragons. Every word of that is my humble opinion. I'd love to hear your humble opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.